Hey, somebody's got to get the monopoly out. You did? Excellent. I called a battleship. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. You are listening to the Professional Noticer.
Watch out for that first step. It's a doozy.
Here, you and I will use common sense and all the wisdom we can muster to move beyond what is true and go all the way to the truth. With listeners now in 99 countries around the world, welcome Taiwan. Hey, Taiwan. I am the Professional Noticer.
I feel like I should say something smart.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andy Andrews. Hey, thank you for making me a part of your week. As the Professional Noticer, it's my job to professionally notice something for you. And nothing's off limits, so what's your question? Business, spiritual issues, popular culture? We even tackle the odd conundrum here, like if a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Is that also true of ostriches as well? My purpose here today, with every show we do, is to play the part of a best friend or coach. I want to help you live the life you would live if all your toughest questions were answered. The Professional Noticer is sponsored this week by GrowingDeer.com. If you already watch Growing Deer episodes or regularly visit the GrowingDeer.com website, you already know why I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the Woods family, first of all. Their weekly show arrives at my email inbox every Monday morning. It hits YouTube every Thursday, I think. But wildlife biologist Dr. Grant Woods, he is my buddy now, and this guy, he is brilliant. He explains wildlife stuff, outdoor stuff, in a way that I can actually understand it. Okay, you know, the guy is a scientist, but he's also an outdoorsman, and they had an episode a couple of weeks ago that it was amazing, showing how fast deer can react. And they put the, like kind of an artificial tape, you see on television shows that somebody dies or something, they put that kind of man-shaped tape around them. Well, these deer are actually up and moving around, and so they put this a tape. Is Matt? What do you call that? It's kind of it's a technological thing. It doesn't exist. It's like the yellow first down marker if you're watching a game. But they put this tape around this deer, and there were two of them there. One of them had the head down, one of them had the head up, and they show how fast these deer are able to get out of there when they're startled, and which one can move the fastest. Who has the fastest reaction? The one with the head down, the one with the head up. It was amazing stuff. They might devote a whole episode to something like that, or just something like prescription fire and how you do that, or how it's done without injuring birds and animals, and what really happens to their habitat afterwards, and why it's done. So I bet you'll be as shocked as I am at some of the things that Dr. Grant proves on the show. And Dr. Grant's wife, Tracy, as well as their daughters, Raleigh and Ray, are frequently appearing on the show. The whole operation is a great example about how families can work together and play together and support each other. So whether you're an outdoor person or not, certainly an outdoor person, turn them on to GrowingDeer.com. And you go check it out too. It's awesome. GrowingDeer.com. Observations and answers. That's what we do here. I deliver the observations and make a good pull at the answers, but you provide the questions. And the quality of your answers can only be determined by the quality of your questions. And so we would love to field a question from you. Write me. Email is theprofessionalnoticer@andyandrews.com. And listen, if we use your question, the Professional Noticer will send you your choice of the Guided Traveler Experience, or you could choose 100-Year Parenting. And I think you'd like either one of those. Our question this week is from a caller in the Northeast who prefers to remain anonymous. So let's get to this question. Hey, now.
Hi, Andy. Thank you for the wisdom you share. Approximately 7 years ago, I discovered that my husband was having an affair. I was heartbroken. Like many wives, I believed my husband was the last person who would do such a thing. He denied it until I found some incriminating emails. I thought my marriage was over. My children were 6, 11, and 13 then. It was a year-long affair with a high school friend whom I don't know. To my surprise, he didn't want to leave. He wanted to go to marriage counseling, which we did, for about 6 months. We started praying together at night and going to church. Our relationship became stronger in a sense. Something was still nagging at me, though. Long story short, I discovered that my husband had been having an affair with a friend of mine for 3 years prior to the affair he had already admitted. My husband denied it over and over. We were still in counseling, and I wanted to end the marriage. He begged me not to leave. He would say that he would tell me the truth if I didn't leave him. One day in counseling, he admitted everything. It was a weird kind of relief, and he answered a lot of questions that I had. We stopped going to the counselor because she wasn't fixing anything, but she did facilitate his admittance to that affair. We grew stronger as a couple, but I was still broken. It took me several years to finally begin healing. I'm still healing. Our marriage is better than ever. I trust but verify because I'm no longer naive. He told me back then that he will spend the rest of his life making it up to me. I'm a fairly low-maintenance wife, and we both hate fighting. So my question for you is, if I still have that nagging feeling about there being others, do I let it go because we're in a good place now? I feel that there were others. I just feel that healing a broken marriage is difficult when there are still lies, still others that I don't know about. It just festers inside of me. What are your thoughts on this? I know the correct answer would be to just move on and bury those thoughts. Should I want to know about the others? I don't need details, just if it did happen and who. Thank you for listening.
Hey, thank you for the question. I just probably feel like a lot of people listening to this right now, you just want to throw up. It's tough to listen to your voice, knowing that you have gone through this and are still going through a lot of this. And I think that I have some interesting thoughts for you, but I think that this is an unusual way that you have come to me and asked this question because I think I am going to give you some answers that might be different if you had asked another way. And I'll kind of get to this as we go along. But I also think that your values, what you probably believe, and the way you feel, and the way you want to feel, I think a lot of us identify with this, even though a lot of us may not be able to identify personally with the situation. I think if we put ourselves in your position, we certainly understand your feelings. Now, here's a couple of things that I just want to point out. I took some notes while you were talking, and there's a couple of things that were, I guess, that came to my attention as you talked. One is that you were obviously devastated when you found this situation was going on. You found incriminating emails, and you had children, and then you found out it was a year-long affair. But then you said, to my surprise, he didn't want to leave. Now, I got to tell you, I think that most of us heard that, and to our surprise, you didn't want to leave. You know, it's curious to me that you say, to my surprise, he didn't want to leave. And that just, I guess that says to me that you weren't thinking about leaving. even after you found out. So that's very curious to me, because I think that's most people's first. I think that's the kind of the first place they go is, I'm out of here, and or maybe it's not. I mean, maybe the first place people go is, and I guess I answered my own question here. I think that the first place people go is just utter disbelief and just an overwhelming sense of grief. While I've not experienced this personally, I have been there and seen some friends and acquaintances go through this kind of thing. And it's curious to me that you have sent this after so many years, which when I say curious, it's not surprising curious that you would still be dealing with this. It's just, I guess it's an interesting aspect to it that I think that a lot of us look at and go, wow, we feel for you, because you're still dealing with this. You're still struggling with this after such a long time. When you said that you started praying together at night and going to church, I gotta say that part of me went, yeah, that's exactly what I would expect him to be doing is, if he's not going to leave, yeah, I'm start praying and going to church. It's just like somebody, goes to prison and has a religious experience. And, the first thing you kind of think is, well, of course you do. It would be the first thing you would tell your parole board. And that's real cynical, isn't it? As many people, especially as many friends as I have that are involved in prison ministries. And, Polly and I have been involved in that kind of thing before, financially supporting that. And so it's a cynical thing to say, but I'm being honest with you here. It's one of those kind of things that you start thinking about like right off the bat. I guess I'm not the only one who does. I mean, that early in your call, when you say start praying together tonight and going to church, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, and it did. But it's curious to me that you discovered your husband had been having an affair before the one he had already admitted to. Okay, so this is something that he did not confess to when you found out about that, but then you discovered this other one. And this one was a longer one that had happened before that one. And he denied it. Now, you said that you discovered he had been having an affair. You didn't say that you suspected he had. You discovered that he had, and yet he still denied it. You're still in counseling, and you wanted to end the marriage, but this time he begs you not to leave. And I got to say, the next part is the weirdest part to me. That he said he would tell you the truth if you didn't leave him. That kind of is telling you the truth, isn't it? I mean, I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell you the truth. I'm denying it, but I'll tell you the truth if you just don't leave me. Right? Well, okay, you just did. Man, I have a hard time imagining the mess that this tornado that you have already gone through. I mean, you had the children, and this is all still going on. And so then he admitted everything in counseling. And at some point, you stopped going to the counselor. And I understand that. You wasn't fixing anything. Maybe time to change counselors. Okay, you wasn't fixing anything. Did facilitate the admittance. And here's where I totally get it again, that you're stronger, but you're still broken. Took several years to begin healing. You're still healing, you say. And now I'm confused again. Your marriage is better than ever, but you still have questions. Maybe I'm not confused by that. I can see how your marriage would be better, but I also, when you said that you're no longer naive and now you trust but verify, that's a famous statement, right? Didn't the president say that at some time about the Russians? Trust but verify. I wonder, now this is just a question here for you, one that you have to ask yourself. If you trust but verify, are you trusting? I don't know. It's a question though, right? I mean, I trust, but I verify. I trust you, but I'm still going to look at all your phone records. I trust you, but I'm still going to get a private detective to follow you. But I trust you. Now, I'm not trying to be a smart aleck. I am trying to think through this because, there at the end, you ask a really tough question. I think you gave yourself the answer, and I'll point that out in a minute, but I think you gave yourself a very tough question. You gave me a tough question, and I got to say, well, we'll get to that in a minute. I do think that you gave yourself your own answer. I think it's tough to trust but verify because I think that if you're, I just think those terms are mutually exclusive. I don't think they belong together. Now, I'll tell you this. I can certainly understand how you could say that your marriage is better and that you are doing good and that you're happier, but your trust is not totally back. I could understand that because, trust is like respect. It's earned and it's not permanent. I think that you can totally forgive. I really do believe that you can forgive and that is a decision, but the trusting thing is a process. That you forgive somebody, it's a decision. You choose to forgive, and we are commanded to forgive. And I also think, this is just a little aside here, but I remember as a kid hearing the story about somebody asking Jesus, how many times am I supposed to forgive? 7 times? 70 times? And I remember Jesus said, no, 7 times 70. And I remember thinking, I may have told you this before, but I remember thinking as a kid, really? 490 times? Really? Some dumb butt is going to do something 490 times and you're supposed to forgive him every time. But I really think that it was probably that Jesus knew me better or knew us better, because I think that there are times that you might find yourself in a position of having to forgive again this kind of same thing. Sometimes I'll forgive something and then 3 or 4 days later or a week later or a month later, I'll be driving along and something just crawl all over me again. And I'll realize, oh, wait a minute. I took that back. I need to forgive again here. I need to make that decision again. So forgiveness is a decision. Okay, but trust is probably a process of decisions. Because do you forgive somebody? Do you forgive somebody who lies to you? Yes, you do. Do you continue to believe everything they say? Well, no, not immediately. I think that would be a process. I mean, you love your child, okay? But and if your child lies to you, and you have it out with them, and and they say, Mom, I'll never do it again. I told you I was one place, but I was another place. I will never do that again. I'm so sorry. Will you forgive me? Yeah, I forgive you. And, because it's the first time it's happened, you kind of go back to where you were before. You maybe think about it a little bit, but if next weekend the same thing happens, and then Mom, forgive me, I'll never do it again. Well, yeah, okay, I do forgive you. I love you, and so I will forgive you, absolutely. But I'm be a little more cautious now about trusting you. And if you do it again, then I'll forgive you again because I love you. But man, there'll be a serious amount of time here before I can just let that go. And I think that's the situation that you're probably still in. Now, let me before I go to the end of your question, go to that last question. I want to say that you mentioned that your husband said he's going to spend the rest of his life making this up to you. My wife would say, yeah, well, he should. That's what my wife would say. And if he's serious about that, let me lay something out for you. And maybe this is something that you could talk with him about at some point. But I think, I hear about this a lot. And this is a sad part, I guess, our reality in our society today, or it's a sad part of just man. It's a sad part of the way we are. But it's certainly harder to stay faithful than it is to be unfaithful. But I think about my situation. I think about, what does Polly think when I'm gone? I'm gone. I stay in hotels. I'm gone a good bit, and we've been married. It's coming up on 32 years, and one thing that I will tell you about this kind of situation is I go way out of my way to make sure that my wife doesn't have to think about this. I go way out of my way. And I think that in your husband's situation, just my opinion, but I think your husband should go way out of his way to keep you from having to live your life verifying his behavior. I think that if your husband, I don't know what he meant when he said, I'm going to spend the rest of my life making this up to you. But I hope he didn't mean that I'm going to buy you a vacation house now. Now I'm going to buy you furs and rings. I hope that's not what he meant. Because the greatest thing that your husband could do for you right now is to take this worry and this fear that you're living with about him away. And there is a way. You can't be alive as long as I've been alive. And not that I'm necessarily that old. I hope I'm not that old, but you can't be alive on this planet for a long time without feeling like you've seen a lot of stuff happen. And so, when this kind of stuff has happened, I have seen people that, it blew everything up immediately, and that was it, and it was over. And I've also seen people that, I knew him for 3 or 4 years before I heard the story of what had happened 20 years ago. And, I'm like stunned. They're still together and they're just have an unbelievable marriage. And, It's one of those kind of things that I have to remind myself sometimes, because I can take up a grudge for somebody. Polly and I were talking not too long ago, and found out something that had happened, and I just like reacted quickly, just kind of in anger toward that person, and just and the other person in the marriage was determined to stay and make this work, and of course this person was sorry, but I reacted very quickly and in anger at that person. And Polly reminded me, she said, well, you run it forward. What do you really want for them? You want the best for them, and run it forward. We know people who have great marriages, and we love them very much, and we don't think of either one of them the way that we think of this person right now, because years have passed and they have worked through it, and they have done what needed to be done, and so don't we want the best for these people that this is happening to now? And she was right. But I do believe that there are things that your husband can do to go way out of his way to make sure that you don't have to follow around verifying stuff. I mean, I'm amazed sometimes. I'm with friends, out of town, like going to the camp or something like that, and they don't talk to home all weekend, or I've been away and somebody didn't talk to home for like 5 or 6 days, and Polly and I, we just laugh, it's just like, really, because we talk several times a day, and maybe I don't know, maybe somebody, well, I can't afford the cell phone or whatever, I don't know, but Polly always knows where I am, and she knows who I'm with, and she always knows who I'm not with. If I'm gone, she knows when I'm up in the morning, she knows when I'm in at night, and usually she knows when I turn out the light, and I don't, I'm just trying to think through some stuff right now. I don't have, I get picked up a lot of times speaking. I get picked up by a sedan service or, something like that. Not a limo, but, they're driving just a sedan, but these are drivers, and I do not get in the car with a female driver. And some people think, well, that's just kind of crazy. Well, in our world today, there's a lot of reasons I can think of for not doing it. But my wife knows how I am. She knows what I do. And so she doesn't have to live her life verifying. And I don't think you should have to either. And I think that your husband might have to go out of his way. I know a guy that, and he's a business person, and he actually went without a cell phone for over a year, and it was a hassle. Business wise, it was a hassle. But even when he got a cell phone back, he had his wife dialed in on it so that every time his rang, she could see who was calling. She could see all this text. And, that's another thing Polly and I do. We leave our phones out all the time. We see who's talking to who. We see who's texting in. We see who's calling in. And, there's a way that you can live your life and not have to feel like you verify everything. So here's the last thing. You say you have this nagging feeling about there being others, and you ask, do I let it go because we're in a good place now? And you say you feel that healing a broken marriage is difficult when there are still lies, still others I don't know about. I agree. If he is lying, that, if there were more or whatever, or, if he's lying, it's something that that is, and if it is in the past, right? If it's in the past and he is lying, it's something he's having to live with every minute of every day. I always say I couldn't do that because I'm not wired like that. I'm too much of a chicken. I'd be, every time the phone rang, I'd be jumping, I'd be scared to death, and so to me, I would urge him, man, just come clean, get it over with, get it done, man. But you don't control him. I don't control him. And you say healing a broken marriage is difficult when there are still lies. I agree. And it festers inside of you. Right now, here's an interesting part, and this is where we get down to what I'm going to let you go with, okay? There are different, depending on details, I think there's different things that, I'm not one of these people that thinks that, somebody should just stay there forever, let them beat you or let them, I'm not one of these kind of people. And so I know that I don't know everything here. You couldn't talk to us long enough to tell us everything that you had been through. But here, I wrote this down. You said, I think I wrote this down exactly like you said. You said, I know the correct answer would be just move on and bury those thoughts. Okay, and what I want to say to you, you asked if I still have that nagging feeling. Should I let it go because we're in a good place now? And then you say, I know the correct answer would be to just move on and bury those thoughts. Okay, say, I want to tell you something. I don't know what the correct answer is, but if you already know what the correct answer is, if you already know what it is for you, I say you go with that. Now, somebody might listen to this and say, well, how is she supposed to? I don't know. I'm just saying, you said you know the correct answer is to move on and bury those thoughts. And then you ask me, should I want to know about the others? You're asking me if you should want to know. I say I wouldn't want to know. Now, should you want to? I don't know if you should. Do you? You probably do. But should you? I don't know. I think if he wants to come clean, that you should want to know. Now, that's assuming there is anything to come clean about, right? Okay, if he announces, hey, I want to come clean about something, okay, then you should want to know. But right now, he is saying there is no more. Okay, then should you want to know something he's not willing to tell? You're torturing yourself. So in this case, you know what the correct answer would be. It's not just to move on and bury the thoughts, but I think you have the right idea. I think the correct answer, I think you have it, is you move on, and I don't think you're ever going to bury that. You're not ever going to forget, but you can forgive. History and just people. If I were you, I would find somebody. If I were you, I would find not necessarily a professional counselor, to find somebody, and you can find them, that they have a great marriage and this kind of stuff happened 20 years ago. And you can find them. And you don't necessarily have to take your husband with you on this, especially not at first, but I think you need to find out. What did you guys do? How did you deal with those thoughts? I think if they have a great marriage now, I think you can find both sides will have a lot of wisdom for you. And I think that soon they might have some that your husband would want to listen to as well. I don't think your husband is in a position not to want to listen to to stuff, okay? But listen, I pray for you and have nothing but the greatest wishes for a true healing in your marriage. Okay? All right, thank you. I'm Andy Andrews, the professional noticer, harnessing some common sense and wisdom to plow through challenges all the way to an answer for you. Hey, here's the thought. I know you can use Google to calculate the buoyancy of your homemade steamboat, or to answer the question, what's the easiest way to make steam in an old bathtub? But where do you seek wisdom? There's a difference, in knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge will help you actually build a steam engine. Knowledge will allow you to actually attach it to an old bathtub. But wisdom will help you figure out there are more factors at play than you might think. Pure knowledge, without the wisdom to apply that knowledge in the proper way, is not only useless, it can be dangerous. So allow me to suggest again, wisdomharbor.com. That's wisdom, HARBOUR. Go there, look around, be welcomed by a friend, and get a 5-minute guided tour, absolutely free. But then, come on, you guys, join us. Be a member of Wisdom Harbor. It's only $17 a month. Totally worth your time, worth the investment you will make in your family, your business, and your schools. That's wisdomharbor.com. Hey, watching on YouTube, take a moment right now, if you will, and put that cursor down on that red subscribe button. Press that red subscribe button and subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. That way you won't ever miss an episode of this podcast, but you also will receive some of the extra things that we do that you definitely want to be a part of. So red button, subscribe right now. Thanks. And I think that'll do it for this week. Get us out of here, Matthew. So, ladies and gentlemen, and to the boys and girls who aspire to become ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of another episode of The Professional Noticer. In a world where common sense has become a superpower, I'm harnessing what tiny bit of mental energy I have for you, seeking wisdom, making observations, and endeavoring to answer tough questions in a way that will empower your family and your business. I'm Andy Andrews. Until next week, smile while you talk. Shake hands with the kids you meet. Make sure you have an answer to the question, what's something small you could do for a coworker right now, within the next hour, that would brighten their day? And so, until next week, goodbye. This episode of The Professional Noticer was produced by Matt Limpert. The Noticer theme written and performed by Sugarcane Jane. Reading glasses provided by Twinkle and Smoke of Beverly Hills. Additional financial consideration provided by GrandSchemeCaller.com. Remember the last time you were worked up about a situation? It seemed like the end of the world. There was nowhere to go, no one to call, and you were out of options. The only thing you knew to do was to let time pass. And then the significance of that problem would slowly diminish, and the hurts would slowly heal until you wondered why you let it worry you so much in the first place. Well, ladies and gentlemen, GrandSchemeCaller.com is a website designed to intervene during those moments of despair and remind you that in the grand scheme of things, everything is okay. And they can also robocall those loved ones that you would also like to be reminded of that fact. Have you found yourself in a situation like this? The family left town on vacation, and the last thing you did was to decide the popcorn maker would be more convenient in the TV room. A few days passed before you realized that in the pursuit of easy popcorn access, you have inadvertently unplugged your fish tank. Yes, when you return home, it will be to a quick porcelain funeral for Bubbles the goldfish and all her guppy friends. But GrandSchemeCaller.com will step in before you return. Their highly trained psychologists will call your children to remind them that in the grand scheme of things, it's not like something happened to the dog. One quick trip to Walmart, and for $1.25, look, it's another Bubbles. So download their app today and hit the emergency SOS button anytime you need a helpful reminder. That's GrandSchemeCaller.com.